It is a Monday edition of Flyers Daily, the 25th of August, 2025. This will be the final Monday with Meltzer of the month of August. We'll be in September soon enough. And joining us from PhiladelphiaFlyers.com, NHL.com, and HockeyHotStove.com, it is Bill Meltzer. Bill, what's going on here late August? Are you starting to really kind of – I'm getting some emails from people that they're chomping at the bit here.
Yeah, it's we're already in countdown phase as far as I'm concerned. Countdown to camp, countdown to the rookies game, countdown to the first preseason game, and so on. So it's looming in front of us, but it's this offseason, truthfully, it's felt positively endless, honestly.
Yeah.
So
I got a DM from a guy, JC, and he sent me. He said, "I'm so deep into August that I actually found this funny." And he said, "I'm so desperate for hockey, I went to the aquarium and booed the penguins." That's what's kind of going around.
That was funny.
And I got an email from another guy, looks like maybe a PSU guy, Pete. He said, "I'm itching to hear Tim and Fridge again when I'm at my second job instead of podcasts and talk shows. No offense, I listened to you at lunch on my first job." He said, "It's been an exciting and interesting offseason, but dang, I can't wait for the season to get here.
Yeah.
How Toppett uses the personnel he has to try to make the Flyers a playoff team will be so intriguing. Summer's been great, and I thank you and your guests for making us better fans through your knowledge and insight, but it feels like it should already be go time. Continued success to you and telling your cancer to kick rocks, and all the best, Pete." Yeah, people are chomping at it, ready to get after it here.
Yeah, can't wait for the first day of camp. It's it felt like we'd never get here, but actually have some pucks on the ice. The third rink is just about ready now at the Flyers Training Center. Actually, when we did the fantasy camp, we had actually had dinner on the rink because they haven't laid the ice down yet. So that was kind of cool. They had flooring over it, but they made it look like ice and ice surface. So that was that was kind of cool. But I can't wait for there to be actual ice to do the first media days and the roster battles and all the things that go into camp. I mean, it just that time of year is just about here. We're almost there.
What is that third rink? A full size rink? Is that 200 by 85? Or is it a little smaller?
I'm not. Yeah, it's a smaller rink. Yeah. But it's I think it's because they had the third surface before. I mean, not ice, but they had so the workout room is different now, and then then they built the third surface. So it's not a full size rink, but it's really cool, especially with all the nods to the Flyers history.
Yeah,
stuff in there. So I'm actually looking forward to actually seeing some players out on the ice surface and whatnot. There was all those renovations at the facility. That's just
when people walk in, they'll notice it right away.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Quite different. It's been really the updates that were needed were done, and I just can't wait to get started.
Yeah, it's not like the old dingy home rink that you had growing up anymore. You walk in, it's really nice reception area and everything. So looking forward to that, and it's really not that far away, just a couple of weeks until rookies get in. Bill, in this episode, I want to get into a couple of things. First and foremost, we talked about last week, you had that report on Tyson Forster, his ability to start the season this year. Another guy that we're wondering about, he seems to go off kind of into like covert operations, black ops. When Risto goes away, it's kind of like he gets really forgotten about really quickly. What is the latest on Risto, and will he be ready to go when the season starts?
So it looks like it's status quo. The last we had heard was that he's going to miss a big chunk of camp, possibly all of camp, and possibly the start of the season. That has not changed. I think it's still the same prognosis. So if he's able to start the season on time, that'll be a plus. The fact that he's had the same injury on the same side in back-to-back years, that has to be a concern. He never really had significant injury issues before that, but the injury bug has bit him back-to-back years, been season-ending things or affected him at the start of the next year or whatever the case might be. But the amount by which he's improved of which I think Brad Shaw deserves a lot of credit. Obviously, Risto himself deserves a ton of credit, but he became a very effective, very valuable piece for the team. When he stopped focusing on trying to hit everything that moves and getting himself out of position a lot, at the cost of there's a high cost on a lot of those hits he would dole out.
Too much risk, yeah.
There's too much risk in his game, and he, those years of getting 40 points. I think it was 4 straight years in Buffalo. He's not going to be that player anymore. He's just a smarter, more self-contained player. But he became a very important player for the team, and to me, he still is an important player for the Flyers. They signed Noah Juleson this offseason. He adds depth, but Ristolainen is the better player of the two. I think by a significant amount still, to where I think that if everybody's healthy, Juleson is maybe your number 7 guy. Now he's competing maybe with an Igor Zamula, Emil Andre, and Dennis Gilbert as well, for who's going to be your number 6, who's going to be your 7. You might not even number it. They're competing for ice time. Whereas when Ristolainen is there, he's an every game player. So I unfortunately, we wish there was more clarity and more we could say, okay, well, he's going to return on X date, but that's not there. So there will be more competition in camp. And when he comes back, you just hope he stays healthy. But to me, with it being a back-to-back season thing, that ended his season, 2 different surgeries, it has to be a bit of a concern.
It's a huge concern. You mentioned Juleson as a possibility. Juleson's also a right shot, so that serves the right side element of this. But the thing, and you look at Zamula or Andre, both left shot guys. So you got to move somebody with a left shot over if they're one of your answers, or maybe it's Helge Gans. He looked good last year when he came in, right?
I thought that he impressed during his brief time.
Yeah,
in the NHL team. He was a high draft pick originally. He really had a good solid year with the Phantoms as well. So that's a guy who will come in and they'll at least look at him in camp. Hopefully he pressures Juleson where it becomes a competition to who would get the roster spot. Right now, I would think that Juleson would have the inside edge on it because he'd been with Rick Tocchet in Vancouver. He was signed for a reason. But that being said, the way the numbers games work out and whatever wouldn't be the first time that you sign someone in the offseason, they get beaten out for a spot, then you got to get that guy through waivers and figure it out from there. There is competition there, but I think that right now, if you had to handicap it, I think Juleson would be ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you that element that he played for Rick Tocchet before is probably part of it. And then the other thing is Juleson's got decent size at 6'2", decent size frame. Granz is even bigger. Size has been a big theme this offseason for the Flyers, no doubt. We'll see where it goes. Granz has played. He's kind of the unforgotten guy. The forgotten guy in that trade from the Kings too. He was with Cal Peterson and everything else. He's got 2 years in the AHL now too. So it's about time to graduate.
Yeah.
Think about graduating to the NHL, and he got a 6-game look last year. We'll see. It'll be one of the interesting camp battles. We're going to get to that coming up in a little bit as well. Bill, with this injury history with Ristolainen, I don't know where things are going with him. We got to obviously see how he comes back and those kind of things. But this is a really tenuous player for any team to consider trading for because of the lack of availability at the drop of a dime.
Yeah, that if all other things are equal, especially with the way the salary cap is going up and is projected to continue to, that would be a guy that he's never played in a playoff game in the NHL yet. But that's a guy who a team that's looking to make a run would have interest in, but it's not an expiring contract. There's the injury history part of it, and it's significant enough cap hit where maybe the Flyers would eat a piece of it if it comes to that kind of scenario. But I think for for the reasons of the health considerations, if nothing else, yeah, it might be a tough one to move, and therefore you have to figure it out. Not just this season, but beyond the season. On a related note, I mean, one thing the Flyers did really, really well this offseason was they didn't leave themselves much cap space for this year, but with the exception of Dan Vladar, everybody's on a 1-year contract.
Yeah.
So it's not a long-term thing or multi-year thing. They tied themselves in with anybody. So that's that does present some flexibility moving forward.
Interesting thing about Ristolainen too. He's now played 776 NHL games. He's 30 years old,
Yeah.
And is he going to be this guy that has this moniker while he played the entire time? Boy, he'd be a really pain in the rear end guy to play against in the playoffs, but never gets to the playoffs.
Yeah.
So we never get to find out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jeff Skinner finally shook that off this year.
Yeah, good point.
I mean, I would love for it to be in a Flyers uniform, but
this year,
this year, that much the better. But I certainly hope for Risto he can shake off that mantle of a guy who never put in any time in the postseason just because of where he played.
Wow, it's going to be interesting to see when he will get information at some point here soon from Danny Briere what his timetable is and how that plays out. I mean, is it going to be beyond Thanksgiving? Is it around Christmas? We just don't know. So we'll find that out eventually, and certainly something to consider when we're looking at training camp and camp battles as well, which we'll get to coming up a little bit more in depth in this episode. Bill, Flyer fans, a lot of them like to scout or watch the development of Flyer players. And there's a lot of avenues to do that, obviously. We've got Flyers players playing all over the globe. And, in Swedish League, KHL, we got Zavragan, you've got now Bjarnason, and obviously everybody with the AHL team. You got the CHL guys. NCAA is bursting at the seams with Porter Martone and Vinsagi and others. And you got an article coming out that's going to be the prospect directory to help Flyer fans know what to tune into, who to follow, and where to sit.
Yeah, it will be a 3-part series of articles. One will look at the college guys. One will look at guys in major, junior. The third one will look at guys in Europe. And that's because a lot of times players between the time they're drafted and then the following season, they switch affiliations. The Porter Martone, of course, the poster boy of that. He'll be at Michigan State this coming year. But so basically just what teams to follow, where you can find information on them and follow them over the course of the season, because some leagues are not always the easiest to find information on players, the European guys in particular. So it's they're not really scouting reports. There's a little update piece on each of the players, but it's okay since last season. Are they still with the same club? Did they switch to another league? Of course, all the news info has been about guys going from junior to college, but sometimes it's the other way around too. Like Noah Powell last year, he started out at Ohio State, but then he ended up playing in the OHL. So that's and it's I think it'd be a helpful tool that people just refer back to when they want to find info on prospects they're interested in. I think now is the right time to do it before Labor Day. And also too, of course, the effect is that players that are in the college ranks, because the NCAA rules are still such where you cannot go into an NHL training camp, the September camp, because classes are underway, so they're not permitted to play, be in an NHL camp until they actually turn pro, until the following summer or whatnot for a development camp. So because that question always comes up every year. So hopefully it can clear some confusion as to which players you can see where and who will be at camp.
Bill, in that article, you have included in there where people you watch all these games, and you have where fans can resource to be able to watch these games? Are they available on demand as well?
Well, yeah, with the college ones, it's not like there's one single resource. Now it's great. It's great when a game is on one of the ESPN channels
or
or
Big
whatever.
Ten Network,
or they're streaming or whatever. But it's not always. Sometimes the best place to actually go to is to the collegiate conference they're in, or to the team specific site, and you see what the broadcast schedule might look like. Now it's easier in the CHL leagues because there are league wide streams, and you can just go to whatever team you want. Those get a little bit pricey to follow a particular team or league, but sometimes it's worth the while. One piece of advice that I have is if you want to follow, I always try to follow specific players or a specific league, because that way you can double dip. Sometimes the teams are playing each other, so sometimes you can get several Flyers prospects in the same game.
Yeah.
So we'll probably be pointing to those as we do player updates over the season. If there's a notable national game or whatnot. But I'll also be probably doing some of those on Hockey Hot Stove too. If there's a game of interest where you can find it.
No doubt about it. That Flyers prospects directory will be coming up on PhiladelphiaFlyers.com, and I'll give you all that info, who's playing where and in what league. Bill, last week we talked about the 5 players, pivotal, younger-ish players that we talked about need to take that important step, not just in development, but, intangible points on the score sheet. And we talked about Tippett, Cates, Forster, Drysdale, and York, and they're all different in some way. But while those 5 players, Bill, are, maybe swing players for the Flyers to help put them over the top, you got to be able to rely on your top guys. That's under the assumption, the top guys are going to be the known commodity. You know what you're going to get, and you might even get more than you think you're going to get based on where they've been the last couple of years. And I want to discuss those guys in this episode. And the first one I come to is obviously Travis Konecny. He's led this team in scoring over the last 4 or 3 seasons in the NHL. He has played a total of 218 games, got 205 points. Not quite a point per game player. He's had some slow second halves, which is a little concerning. But he had a 61-point season in 60 games in 22-23. Missed those games it was kind of a weird injury that year. Then he had 68 and 76 games. And then last year he played all 82, but he had 76 points and kind of a cold finish to the season. Can we expect the same out of Konecny this year? More? How much in power play is part of this? What do you think of Konecny coming into this situation where the team may start rising?
I would love to see. I'm putting his window at about 75 points to 80 points. If he does more than 80 points, fantastic. But right in that kind of 75 point range, just to, as you said, finish a little bit stronger. That's just the one thing you want to see with TK is when you get to February, March down the stretch, just to see him close out strong. That is the biggest thing. And obviously staying healthy through the course of the season too. Last year he was going gangbusters until the injury in January, the middle of January, and then it was kind of a struggle for him offensively the rest of the year. The year before that, he had that game in Calgary, I think, where he got hurt. And he missed a batch of time, and it was a little bit of a struggle too. So the first half of the season, he's been so consistent over the last few years that I think that the first half, again, barring some kind of injury or whatever, we could put that in the bank. We know what'll get you. The second half, as long as he's healthy, as long as he's not completely overplayed or he's out of gas towards the end of the season, hopefully he doesn't have too much of a drop off and can finish in that kind of 75 to 80 point range. I think it's there for him to do it.
Yeah, and look, I think I like the number, the 75 to 80, but if things went extremely well for the team in the power play, I'm not saying the power play is going to be top 8 ranked in the league, but if it's league average and he's feeding on it and that's really working, I mean, you can see maybe an 85 to 90 point player. I think that,
better.
Yeah. No doubt about it. The next player is Matvei Michkov, who we talked about, and there's very lofty expectations from a good amount of people really going over the top with the expectation of a 100-point player and that kind of stuff. Last year, Michkov in 80 games ends up with 26 goals, 37 assists, 63 points. And I saw this prognostication. This was from NHL.com about Michkov. They're talking about he's got that rookie year under his belt at 20 into 21 years of age, and talked about his chemistry with Couturier and Konechny last season, and kind of where you look at him last year, he had 16 points, 6 goals and 10 assists in his final 12 games of the season. So he finished strong, an average of 1.33 per game. I don't think we can expect that this year, but we can expect more.
Absolutely. I'd be rather disappointed, honestly, if he's kind of a stagnant year from his rookie year to the second year. I definitely expect more. You're putting numbers to it. I think hitting 30 goals in a second year is reachable. I think hitting around the 70-point mark himself is certainly reachable the second year. I would think the third year is where he really starts to take off, and and then after that he really starts to hit his prime as a player. But I expect improvement across the board this year. He figured a lot of things out as the season went along. A big thing for any young player, no matter how talented he is, but especially a player who's kind of a prodigy the way that Michkov has been figuring out, okay, in the NHL, this works for me. This doesn't work so great. And then take advantage of the things that work for you. Again, he seemed to figure a lot of things out as to what he could do and what might be. He's never met a challenge that he won't stand up to, but I think he recognizes where the opportunities are sometimes. I think that I think the biggest thing with him sometimes is just learning when you can live to fight another day, and a lot of times in that same game you'll just come back, and then maybe in the third period you could wear another team down. I think his conditioning will be at a higher level this year than last year, and that I think will be a big piece of it too, because I think as he goes along, his conditioning will continue to get better. Certainly the experience level, yes, teams have a book on him, but he has a book on them too. And he is such a smart player, thinking so much ahead of the play that I expect a better player from start to finish this year. And then then after that, the sky's the limit as long as he's healthy. But I'm not expecting sky high numbers in year two, but I'm certainly expecting a progression from year one to year two.
He averaged 16 minutes and 41 seconds on the ice last year. He did have 8 power play goals as well last year. Yeah. So we'll see how he picks up with this power play. Also from Matvei Michkov, he's going to be an intriguing player to watch, no doubt about it. The next one, Bill, this is a really tough one. This is Trevor Zegras. Now, Zegras in his last 4 NHL seasons combined, and he's had some injuries the last 2 years where he played 31 games and 57 last year. But he's played a total of 244 games. He has 64 goals, 109 assists for 173 in those games. It's an average of 21.5 goals a year, 36.6 assists a year for 58 points. Yeah. But I do want to go back to the 2 years he had, his age, 21 and 22 season, I think so, where he played 156 games in those 2 years and averaged 24.2 goals and 42 assists for 66 points. It makes him an intriguing player to try and prognosticate with the change of scenery. Yeah. I don't know what to expect here because I don't know how long he'll be playing center or power play. I don't know how to handicap his numbers. I really don't.
Yeah, I it's easy to describe his talent level, but then you have to look at all those factors. How well is he going to fit in with Rick Tocchet's systems, which are because they will start him out at center, and it's easy to say, well, offensively he'll just get back to where he was, and he could. He certainly has the ability to do that, especially with high quality line mates around him that he's playing, like with Michkov, for example. But on the flip side, can he carry the defensive responsibilities of which Cronin said in Anaheim that he was their most improved player. But the flip side of that are, yes, he did improve away from the puck, but he did it at the expense of some of those scoring numbers. And he's going to be a player who's going to be judged first and foremost by how much he's scoring for you. You just want him to do enough defensively where he's not a liability, especially if he's not scoring. Does he stay in the middle? How much? I think he'll be a difference maker on the power play. He has to be, but how much is the power play as a whole improved? Because it's not just with the personnel that you add. It's how the pieces all fit together with it. So I can't handicap his numbers either. I would just say, as a ballpark, somewhere in the 60-something point range is only a reasonable expectation for him. I don't know. I can't say yet with a high degree of confidence where I would place his production for the year. I really just want to see the overall fit as do I'm not talking about in the room, but I am talking about on the ice as to does he hit the ground running? Does he stay healthy? Because last year he had some injury issues. I mean, all those things. There were reasons why the Flyers got him at a lower value than Anaheim was asking for before.
No doubt.
So, yeah.
I wonder about ice time too with him. He's only played over 16 minutes total, for average, or 17 and into 18 minutes one time in a season. He played 81 games that year. I'll tell you one thing that I don't think he's going to be doing is taking draws on a power play.
No.
He is not good in the dot. Career 40%. I mean, he was 36.6 last year.
Yeah.
That's got to improve. And it makes me wonder about line mates too with him, because I mean, if you got a key draw and he's on his weak side and he's not a good face-off guy in the D zone, sometimes you got to have may have to have a winger with him.
Yeah, I would think that Christian Dvorak will take a lot of draws for him, and then either you get him off the ice,
or if they're together he's on the wing,
or he moves to a wing after he takes the draw.
Yeah, I could see Dvorak playing with him too, and I think that's a great point you make. I mean, with Couturier, you don't have to sub him out. You don't have to. Cates has gotten better, still needs to get a little bit better, but those years of having Couturier and Giroux, two of the best face-off guys in the entire league. I mean, that was such a luxury. One left-handed, one right-handed, too. Let's get to our next player, and let's jump to Sean Couturier, because Bill, whether some Flyer fans like it or not, he is a core guy here. He's tied up. He's the captain. Yeah. He's not going anywhere. His numbers the last couple of years certainly not reflective of the player before the surgery. In total, when you look at Couturier in his last, let me look at my data here. In his last, I guess it's 5 seasons, 305 games, he's got 269 points, 29. This is before the injury, by the way, before the surgery. He averaged 29.6 goals a season, 42.7 assists for 72 points. But the problem is the last couple of years since he's returned, he's the 82 game average, 13.9 goals per 82 and 30 assists for 44 points. I think you got to get more from Couturier. I think you got to get upwards of that 55, maybe even a little more.
Yeah.
Couturier, because of the ice time that he's going to play and be in the middle.
I was going to say that's going to partially be dependent on the ice time factor too. I mean, John Tortorella moved him down the lineup quite a lot over portions of the season. Sometimes he was still up top, but if he's going to play in your top 6, if he's going to be seeing special teams minutes, the power play side of special teams, you're going to need a level of production from him. I'm not expecting him to be a 30-goal scorer anymore. And that's okay. But you do need a certain level of production. It's very hard right now to number the lines. But I think it's fair to say that for the Flyers to be a team that can truly contend for a playoff spot, you need something closer to the pre-injury Sean Couturier than how he has performed overall since coming back. So the expectations are really high. It was not by accident that that the first person that the management called when they hired Rick Tocchet was Sean Couturier, and they even had cameras rolling. That was for the fans, but that was also for Coots himself.
Yeah.
Because we realize how important you still are to this hockey team. We realized that you kind of felt disrespected previously. Some of your teammates felt that too. That will not be the case with Rick Tocchet. You have to earn your keep. You have to earn your role. But he's not going to feel like I'm being dropped and nobody's explaining to me why, or I'm being prejudged too. Yeah. Because I think there was a bit of a sense of, well, he's too slow to play at the pace we need anymore, so I'm going to move him down. Coots has never been a speed burner by any stretch of the imagination. He's always relied on his smarts more than anything else. But the Flyers know what they still need him to be, especially because they haven't not been able to. The hardest thing to do, one of the hardest things to do, is go out and get a true top end center. So that opportunity is still there for him, and if he can play something on a sustained basis that's closer to where he was before, then we're looking at a whole different scenario than if he's struggling. So
24 and 31, 24 goals, 31 assists, gets you to 55. I think it's very doable. I really do. For Sean Couturier. The last one, Bill, you really don't go by stats when you're talking about defensemen. You do for some, if it's, Cale Makar or Quinn Hughes. But for Travis Sanheim, he's not a guy that's going to put up huge offensive numbers, so it's a little bit different in the way you judge him. But he is as important as it comes on the back end for the Flyers. He's been a guy that, he's put up some decent points in the last bunch of years. He's got a 31-point season in there that he did in 80 games back in the 21-22 season. Overall, in the last 4 years, 324 games, he does have 128 points. That's an average of 8 goals a year, 25 assists, and 32 points. I think he's a player that you just know exactly what you're going to get. And to me, he just gives a little bit more every year, so I'm expecting a little bit more.
Yeah. If he could play at the level he played at for about an 8-week stretch last season, where he really truly was playing like a number one defenseman. He was playing the best hockey of his career. He completely deserved that spot he got on the Four Nations roster for Team Canada. You know what you're going to get from him. You know that that combination that he has of size and of speed, he's developed into a leader on this team. Now, though, if you had a Drew Doughty in his prime or something, that's your number one defenseman. They don't. So, he is by, I don't want to say by default, but just based on what they have on the roster, he still is their most important defenseman. Will eat the most ice time, but you know what his game is. That he'll always be ready to play, and he'll make his offensive contributions. They won't be off the charts offensive contributions, but he will contribute in a lot of situations. He'll have license to be up ice and to pinch down on plays, that kind of thing too. So he's one of those guys that I really don't worry about it.
No, me neither.
There are players in the team where I just don't know what you're going to get from game to game, season to season, sometimes from shift to shift. But Travis Sanheim is definitely not one of them. That he's one of those guys who you set him. He has a really good health record, so hopefully that stays that way. And you want to set pieces around him this year, and beyond this year, till that time comes that you actually do have we have a true number one again. That's hard to find. So the Flyers will have to win with depth and they'll have to win with the pieces that they have. I think that in order to be able to do that, a coaching staff needs and the front office needs a certain number of players where you with the puck, without the puck, what their game is, and even regardless of who the opponent is, about what you're going to get. So so Travis Sanheim, to me, the two Travises to me are your two pieces, your bedrock pieces on the team where you know what you're always going to get from them.
Travis Sanheim, to me, the thing that really sticks out to me in his development has been the maturity as a professional and the recognition of the elements of his game that he needs to work on. He's gone into like really fine, granular detail.
He is
about that stuff.
This when he was coming up from the Calgary Hitmen, I mean, he was going to be a big guy who could skate, and you were really hoping he was going to be an offensive defenseman because that's what he was a junior.
Yeah.
And instead he's become, no, he hasn't scored at that kind of level. Yeah, he hasn't been a 50-point or whatever more, but he's become a pretty complete player, and that's worth something right there. So
yeah, I remember him telling me on the pod, that backhand flip on the wall, and how he would work on that after practice for just forever. You see that flip happen in the game, you think, oh, that guy just has that. He's got that club in his bag. No, that was developed by hundreds of flips after a practice, trying to get that rim and flick it out. So I love the way he opens up about that kind of stuff as well and how he works on it. I think it's great for young players to hear, and I think fans get a lot of insight from it. So those are the 5 players that we're going to be relying on as guys that we say, yeah, this is, quote, a given, what we're going to get from these guys. You're going to need that. And maybe more from them and others as well for the Flyers. Last thing, Bill, kind of thinking about training camp, 3 key players to watch. These 3 guys will all be in early too. When you talk about Lechenko, Grabenkin, and Helgi Grans, those guys are going to be in training camp battles. Grabenkin's a guy that I'm trying to figure out where he kind of fits in. We know he's kind of a fun guy, and we saw a forecheck, backcheck, paycheck last year when they traded for him and all that. And he's a big body. He did some damage on the power play with the Phantoms. And what's his level of opportunity going into camp?
I think he's going to have to earn it. I'm not really sure what the Flyers have in Grabenkin. The number one reason the Flyers made that trade, the Scott Law trade, was not to get Grabenkin. It was to get the first round pick out of it, which they did. Grabenkin is one of those kind of in between prospects as far as I see it, because I don't know what his role is going to be on the NHL level. He can score in the American League, but he's not going to score at such a high level that this is a top 6 guy. He's not. There's not enough elements to his game where you're going to say, okay, this is a guy who's going to come up here and he's going to kill penalties. This is somebody who's going to always be in your top 9 group or whatever the case might be. So I think he still has a lot to prove. But that being said, there are components to his game that if he can figure it out and put it together, that would be a big boost to the team. Certainly to he wants to be in the NHL. He doesn't want to be in the American League. So to me, this is a critical year that's going to determine whether he's going to be an NHL guy or he's going to be kind of an in-between guy who might not be part of a long-term plan. So I think really it's on his shoulders to prove what he can do this year.
I think he's a player that he's battling one other player, and he's not the favorite because they put a lot into the other guy in Bump. Yeah. That's the guy. I mean, he's going to have to significantly outplay Bump to have any chance at the roster. Bump's going to have to play well also, but he's going to have to significantly perform him in camp to get a shot, because I think, they obviously really like Bump. Lechenko, who we talked about, Grans as well. We'll see the battles coming up here very shortly. That's 3 weeks away, less than now, to the rookie game.
Yeah, and I don't think he's going to be in the opening night roster. I really want to see what Oliver Bonk does in camp.
I got two of those. I got Barkey too. I really want to see. We haven't seen Barkey in development camp in 2 years.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, because the mono 1 year and the injury issues. So he, but I mean, he's going to be a fascinating player. He's going to be a fun player to watch.
Yeah.
I don't know. Scoring wise, we'll see what he is as a pro. He certainly scored a lot in junior hockey. He did not make the national team for the World Juniors, which kind of that's a challenge to him, though. That's something where it's like, well, what more could he have done to made the team? But things like that can motivate a player too. Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see what he can do. With Bonk, one thing I want to see is do they experiment with him as a power play guy? And it's funny, and I'll share this. I had a conversation with Keith Jones during the fantasy camp. We were talking a little bit about players in the system and whatever, and we were talking about Bonk, and I said, well, he's going to have to get used to playing a little bit different role. He's not going to be what he was in junior hockey. He's not going to be a bumper guy. And Jonesy said, well, who said he can't be?
Yeah.
Right?
Try it, right? What do you got to lose?
Well, that's just it. He said, well, he showed an immediate aptitude for it as a junior player.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, don't just assume he can't do it because he's a defenseman.
Yeah.
Because he has a talent for it. Nobody taught him how to play the bumper on the power play. He just put him out there and he figured it out because he had the hockey sense to do it. He said, so I'm really interested to see in camp, okay, what does it hurt to take a look at him there? And and if that could become something in his bag of tricks that he could do at the NHL level on top of being potentially a shutdown guy defensively, even if he starts with the Phantoms, then you're looking at a whole different scenario where maybe he does come up to the NHL at some point during this year if he's progressing well. And I don't want to put a timetable on it, but they drafted him in the first round for a reason. They certainly like what they saw from him in London. Smart kid.
They trust that program.
And I mean that London team was phenomenal. So he played in the World Juniors both at 18 and at age 19 too. So that's something for him too as well. So even if he's not part of the opening night picture, I really want to see him in camp. He didn't have the best preseason last year, but this time around, where he's playing his first full pro year, a year more of experience. He's someone I really, really want to see. And if we're talking about the end of camp that he's still around, again, even if the numbers game doesn't work in his favor this year, does he set himself up in camp to put pressure on guys to maybe get a call up, maybe by mid-season or sooner than some people are predicting. So I'm really looking forward to see that.
Yeah, and they're really going to want to get a good look at him too. I mean, like you said, he's a first-round pick. That Flyers fans still rue that they didn't take Gabe Perreault right at that spot. And the thing, I love that Jonesy said it's an open mind.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter that he's listed as a D-man on the power play. If he helps your power play, you use him. And is it unconventional? Sure, but if winning, what hasn't been conventional around here is winning.
Yeah.
Well, and a power play hasn't been conventional.
And a power play that can score, and you got, there have been defensemen that have.
Jesus, throw 5 D-men out there, and if you score, I don't give a damn.
I don't care. I don't care who's playing net front. I don't care. Yeah, exactly. If it works, there's kind of been nowhere to go but up. So we'll see. I'm
surprised Torts didn't try that. Throw 5 D-men out there, like the guys you would least expect to generate offense, and see if that works.
Well, he did that at 3-on-3. So.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I do recall. He would start 3-on-3 a lot of times with 2 defensemen and a forward. Yeah. Great stuff, Bill. We'll read your work at PhiladelphiaFlyers.com, NHL.com, and, of course, HockeyHotStove.com. Bill returns in a week, and it'll be September. And September means a couple of things. Canadian people, cottage season is over. Get your ass back. Number one, captain skates, and we're just that much closer to NHL hockey returning. Yes. Everybody, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll be back Wednesday with another brand new episode of Flyers Daily.